Hi, so welcome to Care and Preservation of Paper and Printed Materials. So my name is Casey, and I am an archivist at the Milwaukee Public Library. And if you have any questions after, you can feel free to email us at mplarchives@milwaukee.gov. So today we're going to talk about paper and printed materials and some basics of how to care for them based on our experiences. We are not conservators. We're just archivists sharing what we have learned. We will cover some examples of the items, preservation guidelines based on the specific items, possible resources, and examples of care from our own collections. So print, so some examples of print, yearbooks, directories, city directories, telephone directories, business directories, biographies and family histories, local families. We have a great collection that we partner with a local genealogical society where they give us copies. People donate copies of their family trees, and so people can use those as reference, or if they discover they're related to one of those families, and they can then just make copies of those records. We county and local histories, area guidebooks, cookbooks, church histories, publications about local institutions and organizations, newspapers and clippings, and primary source records and papers of local residents, organizations, city officials, local leaders, or even important events. As you can see in these pictures, some of these pictures, these are some of our documents. So we've got some booklets, blueprints, documents, and a map. And as we've talked about some of the items in the creating the local history collection presentation. These are just a few of the paper sources that we can look for in recording our community's history to create our collection. As librarians, some of these materials we are most familiar with. And as these items become part of our local history collection, we want to apply some additional care, storage, and preservation guidelines to ensure they're still available for generations to come. So here are some preservation guidelines for care and storage. So books ideally should be stored on their spine. Wrap fragile items in acid-free paper or boxes. Encapsulate items if it's appropriate. No flash photography. Photocopy only if the spine can handle the use. As you can see here, this is some of our city directories, and these definitely can't handle photocopying. So we kind of have a makeshift sign there. For very fragile items, taking pictures on a phone is best, especially with bound items. So you don't have all the extra handling of, flipping them over on a scanner or a photocopy machine. If it's the only copy, you may want to create a use copy to cut down on handling of the original. For us, our city directories, which are one of our most used items, we have several copies in different formats of those. So we do have a set of them that we just let people use because we know we have several others in safe locations that are not used often. And then, of course, gloves or no gloves. If paper is really brittle, you want to avoid using cotton gloves, as it can just cause more tearing as your fingers snag on the pages. Of course, you can use, if you have plastic or vinyl or latex gloves around, those will often work as they'll give you better grip. But other items, you may want to still use cotton gloves and keep those around. Now, if red rot occurs, gloves will be preferable to use on those items. In fact, keep those items away from your clothing and wear gloves. Here's some images of some of our oversized storage. As you can see, some of the books, if they're in good condition, you can just put them, stack them put them on the shelf just like you would. For larger volumes that are heavier and maybe in kind of rough condition, we do set them on their side, down on their spine. It's just easier on the item in general. And then we have little tags. These are acid-free. You can buy them or you can make them from acid-free folders or paper. And then we print the information, like what collection it's from or the call number or whatever we need to on the tabs. Here you can see for really oversized, we call these the roller shelves. So there's lots of big items in there. Usually their covers are pretty well intact when we put them on here. But then that's just a separate location code. These are probably all from our city archives collection. So that's why they're kind of all grouped together. And then these are some oversized map cases or drawers. This is from the poster collection. Sometimes we've gotten these donated to us. Sometimes we have bought them. They've come in a lot of different ways to us because they can be pretty expensive. These over here, some of these look like our carpenter probably made them. We do employ a carpenter here. So, but then you can put in the oversized map cases, you can slide the information in there in acid-free folders or however it works. Then it stays nice and flat. You can also wrap volumes in acid-free paper. So as opposed to all the volumes that I just showed you that are all in the city archives collection, this is just like a couple of volumes that was with an archive collection. So we wanted to keep it together. So we bought a roll of acid-free paper. It kind of looks like this. It's pretty, it's pretty economic compared to some of the other options. Boxes can be way more expensive. And then I just wrapped it up. I put a Post-it note on there as a label. You can write on that, but I just thought the Post-it stuck out a little more. And then we use this kind of cotton thread that we have around a lot. As you can see, we have a big box of them because we use them on books in the library. For a book that maybe is coming apart a little, we'll wrap those around. Sometimes I use them in processing archival materials, like instead of using a big metal binder clip that could rust or leave marks on a paper, I will tie one of these ties around a big group if that's how they came. So encapsulation. Encapsulation should be removable. And when I say encapsulation, I really mean anytime we kind of cover something in one of those archival safe plastics. You can do the fancier stuff for the oversized where you buy a big roll of Mylar. But you can also, it can be as simple as sheet protectors that you buy at an office supply store. When you buy them, all you do is look that they say archival safe or acid free, or if the ingredients in there say polyester, polyethylene, or polypropylene. Sometimes I find piles of these around that people have used in the past and I'm not sure. So usually if you look on the spine, you can find some kind of label or number. I just Google that and find the company and see what plastic it says it uses. This is a little fancier sleeves from Gaylord. They actually came that way and they were ordered. But here's a collection that we use just regular sheet protectors. The photos and the little captions were falling off. And so I was afraid we would lose, the caption would get lost and applied to the wrong thing. So we just use sheet protectors and put everything in the sheet protectors. And that way people can look at them and handle them and they're still protected. So often these come in legal and letter size when you use the regular sheet protectors. I cannot stress enough, do not laminate, do not adhere anything that you can't remove to these items in an effort to preserve them because it will just destroy them in the long run. And then our ephemera and oversized material session will talk more about oversized encapsulation. So, and here's a picture of the little bit fancier oversized encapsulation, which takes a little more work. So here's some examples of the document that got laminated that we stumbled upon in our collection. As you can see, it's kind of lifting off. It's lifting the print off and you can barely read it. So yeah, in the short term, it may seem like a great way to try to protect something, but it will just really destroy the document. And then preservation versus use copies. Talked a little bit about this. City directories is a good example of that for us because they're so used. So these photos here are our use copies. It's a full run from about the mid 1800s to, like 2021. And patrons come in and they can use them and handle them. We also have copies of this on microfilm that we can refer patrons to. And then Ancestry actually did come in and scan some of these for Ancestry.com. So we have an institutional access to Ancestry for free for our patrons. So there are some years on there people can access, but that way that allows us several ways people can access the information. And then we actually have a couple sets like this one, which is in a separate room, which is not off limits, but it just doesn't get the use that the use copy does. So we know that these will be saved for the next generations and people will have access to this material. So Yeah, this is a copy in one of our archival locations, but we have a few different copies. So if one gets worn out, we can bring out one of those, but we try to tightly take care of that. So gloves or no gloves, we talked about this a little. Cotton gloves are great, but I suggest saving them for photographs or in situations where you don't have to turn pages, brittle paper pages. They're great for protecting materials from the oils in the hand, not great for turning pages. We have, thanks to the pandemic, we have plastic, vinyl, and latex gloves around, so we've discovered those work a little better. And then red rot. So that's basically when the leather on book covers deteriorates and leaves like a red dust, and it gets everywhere. So when I store these materials, I tend to put a folder in here to try to catch some of it. This one's not too bad. You can see it in here though. Some of the red rot, and no matter how many times you might brush it off, it just keeps deteriorating, so it's everywhere. So don't put it up next to your clothes. You might want to wipe off a table after somebody's used it, so nobody else puts their arm in it. And a word about scrapbooks. Scrapbooks are creative and fun ways to collect memorabilia and have a lot of different types of historical documents and records in them. However, they really aren't the best preservation format. Over time, they often deteriorate faster because of the acidic paper, glue, and tape used in them. So some of your preservation options are to just deconstruct them, as they are often falling apart anyways, and put them page by page into a folder to try to at least keep, especially if everything's falling off the page. So at least you can try to keep it in some kind of order as the creator intended, so people can see that. You could try reattaching items with archival safe tape or coated paper clips. And then interleaf acid-free paper in between the pages, so the acidic paper isn't sitting on each other and that those acids aren't migrating as much. So it's going to depend on what it looks like, but I love them, but they are hard to deal with sometimes. So thanks for attending.